Hi everyone, for my final project, my topic is privacy, security, and confidentiality. The overview: privacy applies to electronic, paper, and verbal communication. Security is the protection of information from disclosure, unauthorized access, and destruction. Confidentiality is the health information must be kept secure and have limited use. The privacy of health information is critical. All health information must be kept private. Organizations can do this by limiting the use of information to only be disclosed when needed for providing care, treatment, or other services to the individual. The privacy rule states that all members in its workforce must be trained on all policies and procedures to respect PHI. Specific training must be provided to ensure that within reasonable time periods, all new members and current members are in compliance. Documentation standards state that all must maintain policies and procedures and must provide ongoing updates and documents of evidence of compliance in written or electronic form for a minimum of 6 years from the implementation date. The security rule implements a security awareness and training program for all members of its workforce. Covered entities and business associates should provide this training as well as posting updates on the trainings. Confidentiality is when the health information is kept secure and kept from unintentional harm. Confidentiality is violated when patients' health information is used or accessed for purposes outside of delivering care, treatment, or services. Minimum necessary standard access: the key protection of the HIPAA privacy rule derived from confidentiality codes. Minimum necessary standard requires covered entities to evaluate their practices and enhance safeguards as needed to limit unnecessary or inappropriate access for the disclosure of protected health information. The privacy rule generally requires covered entities to take reasonable steps to limit the use or disclosure of and requests for protected health information to the minimum necessary to accomplish the intended purpose. The minimum necessary standard does not apply to the following: disclosures to or requests by a healthcare provider for treatment purposes, disclosures to the individual who is subject of the information, uses or disclosures made pursuant to an individual's authorization, uses or disclosures required for compliance with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which is HIPAA, Administrative Simplifications Rule. Disclosures to the Department of Health and Human Services when disclosure of information is required under the privacy rule for enforcement purposes, uses or disclosures that are required by other law. Release of information. Authorization required: the name of the individual or person making authorization to make the disclosure request, the name of the recipient of the information, must meet all requirements of the privacy rule. The core elements of a valid authorization include a meaningful description of the information to be disclosed, the name of the individual or the name of the person authorized to make the requested disclosure, the name or other identification of the recipient of the information, a description of each purpose of the disclosure. The statement at the request of the individual is sufficient when the individual initiates the authorization and does not or elects not to provide a statement of the purpose, an expiration date or an expiration event that relates to the individual, a signature of the individual or the personnel representative, someone authorized to make a healthcare decision on behalf of the individual, and the date. Passwords and security codes. HIPAA's objective is to protect individuals' medical records, personal information, and payment information against theft, loss, and unauthorized disclosure. It is suggested authentication measures must be implemented by security standards that are only known to the individuals, such as passwords or PINs, something that the individual is in possession of, such as a key or smart card, or something unique to the individual, such as a fingerprint. Alternate authentication can verify a person's identity with safeguard measures. The National Institute published recommendations for passwords that include: passwords should be a minimum of 8 characters in length, enforcing the use of complex passwords requiring a mix of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. Alternatively, organizations can allow the use of long passphrases to eliminate the issue of remembering complex passwords without compromising security. Blocking the use of single dictionary words, commonly used weak passwords, and password hints as the answers to the hints can often be found on social media. Enabling two-step login and to add an additional layer of security to accounts and reduce the need to change compromised passwords. Educating users on good password hygiene, such as changing default passwords, not sharing passwords, and not reusing passwords for different accounts. Implementing a password manager to enforce strong password policies, store login credentials securely, and prevent the same password from being used for multiple accounts. Breaches. A breach is generally an impermissible use or disclosure under the privacy rule that compromises the security or privacy of the protected health information. An impermissible use or disclosure of protected health information is presumed to be a breach unless the covered entity or business associate, as applicable, demonstrates that there is a low probability that the protected health information has been compromised, based on risk assessment of at least the following factors: the nature and extent of the protected health information involved, including the types of identifiers and the likelihood of re-identification, the unauthorized person who used the protected health information or to whom the disclosure was made, whether the protected health information was actually acquired or viewed, and the extent to which the risk to the protected health information has been mitigated.